Old Alabama Gardener here on how I make biscuit. I've taken points from many different videos and brought them together here in my own way. I've found this flour here to be the absolute best. It's unbleached, unbromated, and no preservative. I'm going to use 2 cups, and I'm also going to sift it. Because I'm using all-purpose flour, we're going to need to add some salt, baking powder, and some cream of tartar. That was a half a teaspoon of salt. Now let's measure out our baking powder. We'll start with 1 tablespoon. Now add an additional teaspoon of baking powder for a total of 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. Add a quarter of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now add 1 tablespoon of sugar. You can add a little more if you like. Now sift everything, and what this does is it adds air into your mixture. Make you a little well in the middle of your flour, and then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of lard. This is lard that I have rendered from trimmings off of a pork roast. Melt about a half a tablespoon of the lard onto your baking pan. Mix the lard into the flour. Now we're going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. Slice it thinly and then break it up into smaller pieces into the flour. Some recipes call for incorporating the shortening to the point where it looks like meal, but I don't think that's necessary because I'm going to wind up with some small flakes of butter in my mixture. Use your fingers and just start mashing the butter and the flour together, getting it all down, worked in really good. Now I'm going to show you that there's some small butter flakes remaining in my mixture. At this point, you can keep on working with this mixture pretty much as long as you want to, but once we add the liquid ingredients, you do not want to overwork the dough. Now make a well in the center of the dough to get ready to receive the buttermilk. We're going to add 1 cup of buttermilk, and yes, I know that's a dry measure cup, but that's what I'm using. With a spoon or a fork, begin to pull the flour mixture into the buttermilk. Now here's where you don't want to overwork the mixture. Just work it until the liquid and the flour are well combined. I probably could have had maybe another 1 to 2 tablespoons of buttermilk in this mixture. Now put some flour on your cutting board and we'll get ready to roll it out. Now again, here's the point where you do not want to keep on messing with this dough. It'll make it tough. Keep on pulling it towards you, turning it around, and mashing it down, incorporating it all together. This dough is just a smidgen dry, but it's going to work out. I'd rather have it a little dry than to have it too wet. If it's too wet, you're going to have to add more flour, which is going to make you work the dough longer. Now I'm going to pat this out pretty thin, maybe a half to 3/4 of an inch thick, and then I'm going to fold it back over itself on all 4 sides. Now turn it over and we're going to get ready to roll it out to our final thickness before we cut it. Now you could roll it if you want to, but I don't see any need to dirty up a roller, so I'm just going to press it out to the thickness that I want it. If you want high or tall biscuits, then don't press it out so thin. Leave it pretty thick. And then when you put them on your baking sheet, put them close together, and that'll make them rise up instead of go out. Now I'm going to cut one biscuit, but then I'm going to hand shape the rest of them. Notice that the dough doesn't stick to the cutter, and that's what you want. You want it dry enough that it doesn't stick to your cutter. Now place what's going to be the top of the biscuit in the oil, and then turn it over and set it where you want it on your baking pan. Now grab a piece of the dough, and if you want a big biscuit, we'll grab a big piece of dough. If you want a smaller biscuit, get a smaller piece of dough and round it and form it to the shape of a biscuit. Okay, let's do one more. Now using a paper towel, I'm going to pat a little bit of buttermilk on top of each biscuit. You should have already preheated your oven to 500 degrees, and we're going to bake them for 15 minutes. So here we are, a pan of fresh, homemade biscuits with no preservatives. Watch the steam rise out of this hot biscuit. Now I've scrambled me an egg and my breakfast is ready. Here's the leftover biscuits for the next few days.